Alright, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Elden Ring walkthrough. For the last time, we are going to finish the game in this episode. So before we get started on the final part of the walkthrough, I poured over every page of my notes and did unfortunately find a few things I skipped over by accident in the recording. So we'll be starting today by tying up a few loose ends. First is the Iron Virgin duo in Volcano Manor, which someone was kind enough to point out in one of the previous episodes. Now you can reach this in one of two ways. The most common way people get to it, I think, would be getting abducted by the abductor virgin at the bottom of the elevator in Raya Lucaria, which I will show first because ironically that is exactly where I accidentally skipped over one other item. So warp to Schoolhouse Classroom. It's funny going back and seeing what I skipped over by accident because I can pretty much point to a reason why I got distracted in every single instance, and definitely see why I missed it, especially in the midst of recording. So let's hop up here. And instead of hopping off early where we did when we originally came through over here by these crystals and stuff, we're just going to turn around and actually hop off the other side over here where you see this ledge poking out. And then we can run over here. There should be some enemies waiting for us. Guy hiding in the bushes. And you get the Avionet Soldier Ashes. And then what you can do is hop back on this elevator and just ride it all the way to the bottom until it dumps you out. Well, our goal here is to get abducted, I suppose. You have to die to the grab attack for this to work. Any other kind of death here won't trigger the abduction. And just getting grabbed and spit back out is not going to work either. So let yourself be grabbed. It's a little hard to do at this point since we have so much health. There is an easier way though that I'll show here in just a second. In fact, I'm honestly just going to leave this alone. But if you are running through here earlier in the game and dying to the grab is more realistic, then this is the easier way, I suppose. Or at least you can get here a lot earlier. I'm going to run away so I can warp out of here. And we'll go to Volcano Manor and I'll show you the other route. So go to Temple of Aigle. You know, who cares, really? Let's go out the front door. We need to get past this guy. Cut him down, and then over here by this broken platform, there's a spot you can see there to drop down to. So carefully drop down here. And a couple more times into this cave right here. And we drop down next to some bats. So the way forward is to the right, but let me just show you over here. I like how the lava in this game just like basically doesn't even hurt you. It's just slow. So yeah, if you get abducted, you will spawn right here in this spot. So that is where these two routes link up. And then you just hop across here. Wind up over here by the very same bats that we just killed. And good to go. We're all on the same page now. Some smoldering butterflies. And whichever way you go, you can just follow this route through this cave. Going to be dropping down a few times, and the path is pretty linear. So just keep moving forward until we reach a grace, basically. And here we are. A couple Albinaric dudes to worry about. Well, not really worry about at this point, but, you know, they're here, hanging out. And here is the grace. So, now that we got that and have a spawn point to come back to, let's hop down. I guess I will go this way first. Got a couple items to grab off these pillars. Smithing stone 4 there. Smithing stone 6. And then you can hop around the corner over here. Let's get into this cave and just run to the back where the floor will collapse. And then there's a bunch of just cave moss over here you can grab. Otherwise, that is a dead end. So you want to go this way to reach the boss. Now, first things first, if you have any spells or incantations, you can jump on some rocks in here. And the only attack that can really reach you is the sickle throw from the swinging sickle variants. Otherwise, the wheel one can't do absolutely nothing. There's nothing he can do to reach you up here. So all you have to worry about is this guy doing the thing where he just tosses sickle overhead. Otherwise, you're chilling. So I guess even if you don't have any spells, you could just craft some throwing pots and stuff. Otherwise, as you can see, they're very weak to lightning. That was so satisfying, actually. I did not expect them to take that much damage, but I mean, we're about to finish the game, so makes sense. We're pretty strong at this point. Get the Inquisitors. That's a word I've never seen before. And then out here to the east, we got a grace that spawns. And you can exit out here to reach Altus Plateau. It's pretty cool. Hop over here kind of by the beginning, the entrance to Mount Gelmir. These are the new graces. We got Abductor Virgin there and Subterranean Inquisition Chamber. So that is item number 1 that I missed. Now then on to Mountaintops of the Giants. So warp over to Snow Valley Overlook. There you are. And we're going to make our way over to where, well, this is the bridge where Brother Corrin and Goldmask were, but we want this other bridge, so I will stay on the northern half of the river. So disoriented right now. I don't want you bothering me while I take in the scenery up ahead. Okay. I think you got the message. You did not. Alright, he gets it for sure this time. The message was once again not received. We'll do this your way. Okay, anyway. Over here, this beautiful view of the moon overlooking the valley. Wouldn't that make such a great painting? So you get the Great Hood from that, and that was, of course, the sorcerer painting that we picked up in, oh, where was this? Castle Sol, maybe? I think. It's either that or somewhere in Consecrated Snowfields, but it was after we came through here, which is why I forgot about it. Now, real quick, I suppose, while we're in the area, just so I don't have to try to explain this location with words later and confuse everyone, let's just go over here to this other bridge. So this, of course, is where Brother Corin and Goldmask were hanging out when we were finishing up their questline, or not finishing, I guess, but doing one of the last steps to their questline. So depending on whether or not you chose to give Brother Corin the Tonic of Forgetfulness, where would that even be? There it is. Yeah, so depending on whether or not you decide to give him that, for the finale of his questline, I think I mentioned it in whichever episode we originally covered this, but he will either end up here as his final location, or back in Leyndell where we started this episode. So obviously he's not here for me, which means he's over in Leyndell, but if he's not in Leyndell when I show you where he is there, then check this spot. And what you're going to do is just talk to him, exhaust his dialogue, reload the game, and then all of his items and stuff will spawn in this location. So we'll come back to that later, of course. For now, one more order of business, I think. Warp to the 4 belfries. Should have 2 unused imbued sword keys if you've been following the walkthrough. Because we cracked one of these open to get back to the Chapel of Anticipation for the... Should have more than one. That's not... Oh, I didn't open that. Alright, we're good. Alright, 2 imbued sword keys. So, yeah, we went back to the Chapel of Anticipation at some point for Nepheli's quest and also Vari's quest. We needed the Blood of a Maiden. So I believe that is this one that's already unlocked. Precipice of Anticipation. So we'll go down to the next one. There are 2 left. First one, Night Sky Unceasing. So use an imbued sword key here. And this is going to take us to that Crucible Knight that I pointed out way back in Schiefer River. He was way up high on a bridge, and we couldn't reach him from the Schiefer River side. Which is, of course, all the way down there in that area. So make your way down these rocks. Before we take him out, and also grab a lovewort right here, and the modeled necklace, the base version of, which we have the upgraded version of by now, so not really all that helpful. Funny enough, the other waygate we're about to use also has a base version of another talisman that we have the upgraded version of as well, so... That's what we're missing out on. Down he goes. Crisp 3,000 runes. Don't spend that all in one place. And then go back to 4 belfries. This time we will go all the way down to the very bottom one here. Crumbling Lands, which will take us to Crumbling Farum Azula, or at least a random super small flying piece of rubble far away from it. Way outside of it. But yeah, you can make your way down pretty much all the way to the lowest platform you can reach. Couple beastmen here to worry about. Go for this one first because it's a little softer. Maybe not. Alright, and then over here should be another platform to drop onto. And our reward, the Pearl Drake Talisman, which, like I pointed out earlier, where are my talismans? There we go. Already had the, that's not it, the Modeled Necklace +1, now we have the base version. And we already had Pearl Drake Talisman 1 and 2, now we have the base version. So, we're all good to go there. And now on to what I originally had planned. So we're back to Leyndell, capital of Ash. And we'll just go straight southwest from the Grace down this hill up ahead. There's this open sewer entrance. So if you carefully drop down a couple times, get onto this beam down here. Get the Crimson Amber Medallion +2. This is right above Underground Roadside. Might have noticed this item when we originally came through here, but that is how you get it. So with that, warp back to Leyndell, capital of Ash again. And again, despite what happened on the surface, subterranean shunning grounds down there is completely unchanged, so that is all that we have to do down there, unless you haven't cleared that place at all, in which case now would probably be a good time. So let's go down that same hill again. Few very random items scattered around here. Tarnished golden sunflower there. And we'll go up here towards these 2 statues. Item by the left one over here. Golden sunflower. And then up here ahead of the Bolt of Grandsax is where you will find Corrin if he's not back near Stargazer's Ruins, where I pointed out a second ago. Like I said back then in the original episode, he'll just be on his knees rambling about Goldmask here if we don't give him the tonic, so there really isn't much to see in either location.
Look at it. Oh, I finally got master as an enchanter seeking. Look at it.
And I suppose while we're here, might as well... yeah, that's fine. Saving 2 seconds if I do this a different way. And we get his armor, flail, and bell bearing from that. And then a bit further east, there should be another item. Where are you? It's all the way over here. I went too far. Oh, there you are. A rune arc. Alright, that's nice because we're about to die. So go southwest towards this big spiral staircase here. Or like a quarter of a spiral staircase. And we're going to just ignore that actually for right now. And go down this pathway to the right. This is like the dumbest. Like, this bridge was out originally. And then, conveniently, this perfectly sized branch just wedged itself in here. From below, also. Like, clearly, somehow came up from below this bridge. But hey, video games, you know? You run around this corner, you will find Goldmask, and since we are now done with his and Brother Corrin's questline, you receive the Mending Rune of Perfect Order. And with that, we now have access to the Age of Order ending to the game. And if you reload the game again, pick up his armor, if you want to call it that, minus the mask, which strangely we were able to just pick up back in Altus Plateau, where we first found him. But we got it all in the end, so who really cares how it happened? There we go. So yeah, if once again, if Corrin's still over at Snow Valley Ruins Overlook, just warp over there, speak to him, reload the game, and get all the same items, and then come back for Goldmask. Now, while we're wrapping up quest lines, let's go back to table or round table hold. Speak to Roderica.
Hey, don't worry. I'll continue, which is why his roots he won't last. His shack is hide.
And then once her dialogue's exhausted, go speak to Hugh. About yourself. And then back to Roderica. What's happened to Hugh?
I think we could. It's only
Talk.
I'd like to
Talk.
Hugh was so slay.
And we are good to go. Alright, so now if you rest, or when you rest, if you exhausted all dialogue, Roderica will return to her normal place by Hugh. This place is in pretty rough shape now, as you can tell, but you can still use Hugh to upgrade weapons, Spirit Tune with Roderica, purchase from the Twin Maiden Husks, even purchase and trade remembrances with Enya over here. Gideon, however, will be missing. Now we're going into one final gauntlet of bosses to finish the game now, so make sure to stop by the Twin Maiden Husks over here to purchase any, or to drop off any bell bearings you've been saving and purchase anything you might want. Don't forget to, what did I just say? Don't forget to give any prayer books and spell scrolls and stuff that you've been hoarding to the dog at Church of Vows while you're at it. And make sure there are no final touches you want to add to your build, because this will be your last chance to fight in the base game. I guess we're still going to go do a few things before we get to the final boss gauntlet, but we're at round table hold right now, so it was on my mind. But when you're ready, warp back to Leyndell, capital of Ash again. And we're going to run over to Grand Sax's corpse over here. Here's some sounds, unsettling noises on the other side of this wall. But climb up the wing and then up this ladder. Just run straight for a little bit here. So you get to the staircase going the opposite direction, head down it, and I'm going to crouch and hope I'm not seen. So there is a gargoyle down here, and in front of the fortified manor, what's left of it, seems I've been spotted. It's a somber ancient dragon smithing stone. Try to grab it, I guess, without alerting the gargoyle, because he doesn't drop anything. And by this point, I'm sure you know how fighting them usually goes, so just not really worth the trouble. But around the corner of that building where he's backing up to, around that left corner, is a like wooden shack, and there is a seedbed curse there if you did not get it from inside the fortified manor earlier in the game. It's not like an extra one, it's just the same one that was inside that building, but the building is inaccessible now, got buried, so is what it is. Now I'm just gonna run away and hope I can warp here in a second. Never picked up that item, did I? That would be why. I have no use for gravel stones. There used to be a knight guarding it, so I didn't want the smoke. Warp to Forbidden Lands to the east. And I would rest here and mix the Twiggy Cracked Tear into your Wondrous Physic, because I'm going to recommend a suicide run here in a second. Also just swap one of your talismans to a sacrificial twig temporarily, or just not die, I suppose. But once you see the situation, you'll understand why I recommend just running in and dying. And we will ride this elevator to the top. And we want to go west. It's the correct direction. Get a nice long torrentless run here. Love that. Too slow. Oh no. I was kind of hoping the elevator wouldn't be at the bottom. Just hide around the corner, it'll be fine. They can't see me. Completely hidden. Alright, so in this area below, there is an ulcerated tree spirit roaming around that, you know, you can fight it if you want, but I'm going to attempt to avoid it. And we need to get to the top of that branch sticking out of the ash way over there. The problem, though, is that there are two more ulcerated tree spirits buried along the way. So what I like to do is just kind of hug this left wall and get as close as I can to the item on the log, and then just make a break for it, loot it, and if I can, run all the way back to the lift we just took to get out of here. Otherwise, you know, probably gonna die, which is why I recommend the Twiggy Cracked here. I'd prefer just running away because I don't want to lose this rune arc, but Seems pretty close. Let's get to it. And these guys, you kill them and they drop like 18,000 and change runes. Not really that many. None of them drop any items. There's no reward for killing all 3 of them. Just kind of a huge waste of time, to be honest. And they are tanks, as you might imagine, this late in the game. This particular area. But got the Erdtree's Favor +2 Legendary Talisman there, which is the final one we need for the Legendary Talismans achievement. Should have 8 out of 8 there. Also, one other thing that's popped in my head is if you got Millennia's Great Rune, but you haven't activated it yet for whatever reason, you can still use the teleportation trap chest at the Tower of Return in Weeping Peninsula to get to the Divine Bridge Grace and take the Waygate there to the isolated tower to activate her Great Rune. Show you on the map here what I'm talking about, but yeah, it would be like right here roughly. For some reason it gets removed from your map when Leyndell gets buried, even though that area is like unaffected. But yeah, one thing that I didn't cover when we originally went through Weeping Peninsula is there's this tower right here, and if you climb to the top of it, there's a chest. You open it and it will teleport you right back to this spot here. Otherwise you have to run through there's like this whole, this is where Grand Sax's corpse is. This is where we just were to pick up that Somber Ancient Dragon Smithing Stone and the Gargoyle. And then you could like make a jump and get in this courtyard here where there are a couple of iron versions roaming around, and behind them was an elevator that you would take up to here. Now that elevator and that whole area is now buried, obviously, but you can still teleport right there. So that's like a way to get to Leyndell. Well, not really get to Leyndell, sort of technically, I guess, early in the game, but you can't use the elevator from the top, which means all you really have access to is this platform here, which has a sleeping golem on it, a chest with a talisman, and a waygate that takes you over to the isolated tower where you can activate Millennia's rune. So, like I said, if you got her rune and didn't activate it yet, just teleport through here. You are not out of luck. Still good on that. Okay, so for the rest of this video, basically we just have a series of boss fights that will take us straight up to the ending of the game. So I wanted to dedicate this section of the video to going over all of the achievements and endings one last time so you can make sure you haven't missed anything. You're not going to be forced to go into New Game Plus after you beat the final boss though. You'll be free to continue exploring, but talking about this now, especially with regards to the ending, made sense to me. Also, I guess for what it's worth, I didn't even know, like, I was introduced to the concept of New Game Plus with Dark Souls 1, the first one of these games I played. I don't know if that's a thing in, like, other game. Well, I do know it's a thing in some other games, but what I'm saying is I didn't know that was a thing until I played one of these games, so maybe you don't either. But if you didn't know, after you finish a playthrough of any of the FromSoft games, really, you can go into another playthrough. It'll start you back at the beginning of the game with your same character. You will typically lose access to key items, as in ones that like literally keys, things that you would have to unlock to progress past certain points in the story. So like, for instance, if you needed to kill a boss, that drops a key so you can unlock a gate to get onto the rest of the game. That gate's going to be closed again. You're going to have to kill that boss again in New Game Plus to actually progress. So you basically just play through the whole game again. You're going to retain your levels, your gear, all your upgrades, basically everything except items that are required for progression. And the catch is that all of the enemies get harder, and you can continue going through New Game Plus cycles. So your first playthrough is just called New Game, for obvious reasons, and then New Game Plus is going to be your second playthrough, and it'll keep getting harder up to New Game Plus 7. You can keep going past New Game Plus 7, but the difficulty peaks at New Game Plus 7. Everything is going to give like extra runes and everything, and you know, you just get to go through the whole game from start to finish with your completed end game build. It's pretty fun. It's a cool feature. But yeah, some of the games like Dark Souls 1, for instance, you beat the final boss, you picked your ending, and after that ending cutscene plays and the credits roll, you automatically get sent right back to like the intro cutscene, and you're right back at the beginning of the game. All the games since then, to my knowledge, off the top of my head at least, including Elden Ring, after you pick an ending, you have the option to not start your second playthrough right away. So there will be like a prompt after you watch your final cutscene where it asks if you want to begin Journey 2. I'm sure I'll mention this again later in the video. But if you choose no, then you can still roam around this world with all the graces unlocked, and you know, it'll be like you didn't even beat the game. Otherwise, you know, you're going to get reset to the beginning. You won't retain your graces in New Game Plus, obviously. You're going to have to like explore the map and all that, because that is progression-based content. Like I said, that stuff gets reset. But, yeah, so just want to throw that out there. Anyway, on to achievements. So first of all, boss achievements. I play on Xbox, so I'm calling them achievements, but these are the same if you're looking for trophies on PlayStation or Steam or whatever. There are 30 boss achievements, which I didn't point out while we were playing simply because I was going to cover every boss in the game anyway, so you would automatically get them by following the walkthrough, but here they are. All you have to do is kill the boss to get these. The only one you won't recognize if you've been following along is the last one, Horalu, because we're going to fight him in a second, but the rest of these should look familiar to you if you've been watching the walkthrough. Then on to legendary armaments. There are 9 of them, and this should unlock as soon as you get the last one, but if it doesn't, you can try putting all the weapons into the storage chest at any site of grace, and then take them back out into your inventory. So if you go to sort chest, over to weapons, find all 9 of the weapons that are on that list, throw them in there, and then take them back out. How do I work this? Switch to chest. There we go. And then it should pop again if it didn't automatically pop when you picked up the last weapon. I'm not going to go super into detail here, but I'll tell you where these are to give you a general sense of where to look if you did miss one. So Grafted Blade Greatsword drops from the final boss of Castle Morn and Weeping Peninsula, way down here. The Sword of Night and Flame comes from a chest in Caria Manor in Liurnia, right inside here. The Ruins Greatsword drops from the 2v1 Leonine Misbegotten and Crucible Knight fight at the end of Redmane Castle here in Caelid. It's in the room that everyone gathers for here, like in the plaza, for the Radon Festival. So you'll have to do it before you trigger the Radon Festival or after you kill Radon, which ends the festival, obviously. So that one's there. The Darkmoon Greatsword comes from finishing Ranni's questline. It just spawns right where she was sitting underneath this area, the Cathedral of Manicelis, after the cutscene where you give her the ring. Just don't run away too fast and you'll see it pop up right where she was sitting. The Marias Executioner's Sword drops from the final boss of Shaded Castle up here. The Bolt of Grandsax can be found on top of the Bolt of Grandsax right up there, but not after Leyndell is buried. So this one is definitely missable. You have to get it before you burn the Erdtree, but I showed you how to do that in the original Leyndell walkthrough episode, so hopefully you're good on that. The Eclipse Shuttle can be found at Castle Sol, up here at the, not quite at the very end of it. I think it's in the Church of the Eclipse, but it's in there somewhere. Maybe it's at the end of it. I don't know. I'm blanking. It's definitely in Castle Sol though. And then the Golden Order Greatsword is dropped from the boss at the end of the Cave of the Forlorn here in Consecrated Snowfield. And finally, the Devourer's Scepter is dropped by Recusant Bernal, where he invades you in Farum Azula. So that is all for the legendary armaments. Next, we have the legendary Ashen Remains. Lutel comes from the boss at the end of Tombsward Catacombs here in Weeping Peninsula. Mimic Tear is in a chest behind a fog wall in Nokron. Where's Nokron? Over, yeah, it's going to be in this general area here. Black Knife Tish comes from Electo in the Ringleader's Everjail in this Moonlight Altar area that you can only access after you progress Ronnie's quest. Here's the Ringleader's Everjail. Have to do Ronnie's quest to get up here. It's not, even though it's like in Liurnia, you can't just hop up here without doing Ronnie's quest first. Ancient Dragon Knight Kristoff comes from the boss in Sainted Hero's Grave, west of Leyndell. That's going to be... where are you? There you are, Sainted Hero's Grave. Red Main Knight Oga comes from the boss in War Dead Catacombs here on the outskirts of Radagon's arena. And finally, the Clean Rot Knight Finlay Ashes can be found in a chest in Elphael, Brace of the Halig Tree, over in, somewhere along here in the Halig Tree, of course. So that is all for the legendary ashes. If you missed any of those, for legendary sorceries and incantations, we have the Flame of the Fell God. Comes from the boss in the Malefactor's Everjail here at the beginning of Liurnia. Grail's Roar comes from killing the giant dragon Grail over here in Dragon Barrow, kind of next to Fort Faroth. Then there is Ronnie's... Oh wait, actually no, that's not it. Have to kill Grail, and then you get several Dragon Hearts from doing that. The Dragon Hearts can come from everywhere, but once Grail is dead, then you take 3 Dragon Hearts over here to the Cathedral of Dragon Communion in Caelid. So there's a couple steps for that one. Next, Ronnie's Dark Moon comes from the chest at the top of Shallona's Rise, also over here in the Ronnie questline only area. Do the puzzle, get to the top of that tower, and you can get it. Elden Stars can be found in a cave at the... it's like at the end of a cave full of ants here in Deeproot Depths, which is right along here where you have to cross all these roots to get across the giant chasm. Climb up here, cave full of ants, go through it, and at the end of it here before you hop back onto this giant branch, that is where you will find Elden Stars. Next we have Comet Azur, which comes from the body of Sorcerer Azur, which is over here in Mount Gelmir, right there. Just outside the Hermit Village, wherever that is, right there. Go through Hermit Village, and then at the end you find Primeval Sorcerer Azur. You can grab it from him. And then Stars of Ruin comes from Master Lusat in Celia Hideaway, all the way over here in Caelid, kind of near Church of the Plague. There's Celia Hideaway right there. But to actually reach it, you have to get the Celian Seal Breaker from Selin's questline to break the seal that he is behind. And then finally, Founding Reign of Stars can be found in a chest in Heretical Rise in Mountaintops of the Giants, right here. So that is all for the Legendary Sorceries and Incantations achievements. For Legendary Talismans, we have Radagon Icon. It's in a chest on the second floor of the Debate Parlor here in Raya Lucaria Academy. It's the same room that we fought the Red Wolf of Radagon boss. Radagon's Sword Seal is in Fort Faroth, back over here in Caelid, or Dragon Barrow, I guess, technically. Godfrey's Icon drops from the boss in the Golden Lineage Everjail here in Altus Plateau, kind of like right by the entrance to Altus Plateau. Then we have the Moon of Noxtella. That's going to be underground again in Noxtella. In a chest in this building, I believe. It's guarded by like a Nox Priestess and a couple of those silver tier kind of NPC type enemies. Then we have America's Sword Seal. That's going to be sealed behind a fog wall in the like Revenant pits on the very... it's like down here at the south or the most southern end of this whole Elphael area on the lowest level, down where all the Revenants are. Crack open a fog wall with a stone sword key or two, and you will find America's Sword Seal. Then we have the Dragon Crest Great Shield, also at the Halig Tree, past the drainage channel. You come out here, and there's this whole open area. There's like a church down here. It's in a chest on the upper level of the church, so you drop into the church from the roof, so you should find it. And then the Old Lord's Talisman comes from a chest right after you get invaded by Recusant Bernal over here in Farum Azula, in, I believe, this room right here. This is the bridge you get invaded on. That's where the chest is. And also this map's kind of confusing, but to get to that bonus tip, go from beside the Great Bridge and go this way. These other races aren't going to get you there. And then finally, the Erdtree's favorite +2 talisman we just got from that Pit of Ash with all the ulcerated tree spirits here in Leyndell, capital of Ash. So that is where all of the legendary talismans are for that achievement. There are a few more random achievements you will inevitably get just by playing the game, like God Slaying Armament, upgrade any weapon to max level. Going to Round Table Hold for the first time gets you an achievement. Restoring the power of any Great Rune gets you an achievement. You don't have to do all of them. Erdtree of Flame you get by burning the Erdtree, obviously, and then there are the ending achievements, which I will talk about at the end of this video, but that's all for the achievements that you should have, or at least could have right now if you've been following the walkthrough. I suppose also as far as key item collections go, if you just want to make sure you didn't miss anything, let's run through this stuff too. So if I jump over here to key items, you should have 7 Great Runes, all of them. You can activate at Divine Towers except for Great Rune of the Unborn. That one's just on automatically. You should have 32 Crystal Tears, the vast majority of which can be found at minor Erdtrees around the game, but I'll scroll through them here so you can look up online how to get one if you're missing it. You got 2 Crimson Crystal Tears, Crimson Spill, Crimson Burst, 2 Cerulean Crystal Tears, Green Spill, Green Burst, Strength Knot, Dexterity Knot, Intelligence Knot, Faith Knot, Opaline Hard Tear, Speckled Hard Tear, Leaden Hard Tear, Magic Shrouding, Flame Shrouding, Lightning Shrouding, Holy Shrouding, Stone Barb, Spiked, Thorny, Twiggy, Winged, Windy, Crimson Bubble Tear, Crimson Whirl Bubble Tear, Opaline Bubble Tear, Cerulean Hidden Tear, Purifying Crystal Tear, and a couple of Ruptured Crystal Tears. I don't want to walk through where to get all of those specifically, but like I said, if you're missing one there out of that list, you can look up how to get it online. You should be able to find it pretty easily. Should have 20 Cracked Pots, 10 Ritual Pots, 10 Perfume Bottles, 8 Memory Stones, and 3 Talisman Pouches. There are 3 Mending Great Runes that we can use to get different endings. We have the Mending Rune of Perfect Order, comes from Brother Corn and Goldmask's questline. Mending Rune of the Death Prince comes from Fia's questline, and Mending Rune of the Fell Curse comes from Dung Eater's questline. There are tons of spare Stone Sword keys in the game, so if you have some, it doesn't necessarily mean you missed anything, even if you have a ton of them, like I do. What else do we have here? These are all just keys and random items for questlines, basically. Dragon Hearts, might as well go spend those to unlock those Dragon Heart or the Dragon Communion incantations over at the Cathedral in Caelid, if you haven't yet. As for cookbooks, crafting kit, buy from Merchant Kale, right at the first church, right at the beginning of the game. Hopefully you didn't miss that. As far as crafting books, we have 24 Nomadic Warrior cookbooks. We have 7 Armors cookbooks. We have 8 Glintstone Craftsman's cookbooks. We have 7 Missionaries cookbooks, 4 Ancient Dragon Apostle cookbooks, 4 Perfumer cookbooks, 3 Fevers cookbooks, and 2 Frenzied's cookbooks. That is all the cookbooks for the base game. For wet blades, we have, of course, the default whetstone knife for adding Ashes of War and affinities to your weapon. I really hope you didn't miss this, but it comes from a chest under Gatefront Ruins in Limgrave. Way back here in this area. Next we have the Iron Wet Blade, which is for heavy, keen, and quality affinities. That one's going to come from Stormvale Castle, also in Limgrave. Then there is the Glintstone Wet Blade for magic and cold. That comes from Raya Lucaria Academy. Red Hot Wet Blade for fire and flame art comes from Redmane Castle down here in Caelid. Sanctified Wet Blade is the only one you can really miss since it comes from Fortified Manor in Leyndell, which gets buried after we burn the Erdtree. So that one, yeah, I don't know why they made one of them missable. That's super annoying to me, especially you get it so late in the game, and it's like you have to wait so long before you can use those, and then you can just miss it. It sucks. And then finally, there's the Black Wet Blade that comes from Nokron Eternal City. So those are the wet blades. What else do we have here? all the maps and stuff here. I have a bunch of these bell bearings to turn in, and also I've never really turned in any prayer books and scrolls, but I already told you to take care of that stuff earlier in the video, so we're good there. What else? You should have 14 flasks in total, split between Crimson and Cerulean. I have all Crimson right now, so that's why you see the number 14 down there. And you'll probably have a ton of leftover golden seeds. I know I do, but if you have 14 flasks, that's the max, so you're good. They should be upgraded to plus 12 by using sacred tears, which come from churches all around the game. There are sacred tears at the following locations. First, the Third Church of America here in Limgrave. Then the, what's it called? Kalu Baptismal Church here in Weeping Peninsula. Church of Pilgrimage in Weeping Peninsula. Fourth Church of America here in Weeping Peninsula. Then the Church of Erith here at the beginning of Liurny of the Lakes. And then Bellum Church up here, not that one. Bellum Church in Liurny of the Lakes. Also, I guess technically this one, the Church of Inhibition in Liurny of the Lakes. The Second Church of America here in Altus Plateau. The Stormcaller Church, also in Altus Plateau. The Church of the Plague in Caelid, right there. And let's see, and then Mountaintop of the Giants, we got the Church of Repose here right before we get to the Fire Giants. And lastly, the First Church of America, also in Mountaintops of the Giants. That should be all 12 of your sacred tears to fully reinforce your flask. For Spirit Ashes, I'll quickly run through them all. But I'm not going to say where to get them. That would take forever. And you should have them all now that we went back and grabbed those Avianet ashes. My mistake. Apologies for that once again. Yeah, if you're missing one, just look it up online. So we got Wandering Noble, Noble Sorcerer, Nomad, Putrid Corpse, Skeletal Militiaman, Skeletal Bandit, Albinaric, Winged Misbegotten, Demi-Human, Clayman, Oracle Envoy, Lone Wolf, Rotten Stray, Giant Rat, Warhawk, Land Squirt, Spirit Jellyfish, Miranda Sprout, Fanged Imps, Soul Jars of Fortune, Archer, Great Shield Soldier, Page, Vulgar Militia, Marionette Soldier, Avianet Soldier, Kaiden Sellsword, Mad Pumpkinhead, Fire Monk, Ancestral Follower, Azula Beastman, Man Serpent, Crystallion, Kindred of Rot, Glintstone Sorcerer, Twin Sage Sorcerer, Godric Soldier, Raya Lucaria Soldier, Leyndell Soldier, Radon Soldier, Haligtree Soldier, and Mausoleum Soldier. And then on to the legendary, or renowned ones rather. Stormhawk Dean, Banished Knight Oleg, Banished Knight Engval, Bloodhound Knight Flo, Battle Mage Hughes, Latenna, Perfumer Tricia, Depraved Perfumer Carmen, Omen Killer Royo, Black Flame Monk Amon, Ancient Dragon Knight Kristoff. This is the beginning. This last 6 here are the legendary ashes, which I already went over earlier, but Ancient Dragon Knight Kristoff, Red Maid Knight Oga, Lutel the Headless, Clean Rot Knight Finlay, Black Knife Tish, and Mimic Tyr. And then finally, you have the puppets, Finger Maiden Theralina, Jar White Puppet, Dolores the Sleeping Arrow Puppet, and Night Maiden and Swordstress Puppets. You could also have, instead of these, in addition to these, depending on how you navigated Celavis's questline, you could also have Nefeli's questline, Nefeli's Ashes, but that would forsake her questline. You wouldn't be able to finish it. Or Dung Eater's Ashes, which once again wouldn't be able to finish his questline, which is why I don't have either of those, but you could have them possibly. Finally, for talismans, we have a lot here. Do I want to go through them all? Not really. So here we go. There are a couple missing. Well, I'll talk about the missing ones after I run through these. So we have Crimson Amber Medallion, +1, +2, Crimson Seed, +2, Cerulean Amber, +1, +2, Cerulean Seed, Viridian Amber, +1, +2, Green Turtle Talisman, Arsenal Charm, +1, and the Great Jars Arsenal, Erdtree's Favor, +1 and +2, Radagon Scar Seal, Radagon Sword Seal, Marika's Scar Seal, Marika's Sword Seal, Star every time, man. Star Scourge Heirloom, Prosthesis Wear Heirloom, Stargazer Heirloom, Two Fingers Heirloom, Then we have all the defensive ones here. Dragon Crest Shield Talisman, +1/+2, and Dragon Crest Great Shield. Spell Drake, +1/+2. Flame Drake, +1/+2. Bolt Drake, +1/+2. Halleck Drake, +1/+2. Pearl Drake, +1/+2. Immunizing Horn Charm, and +1. Stalwart Horn Charm, and +1. Clarifying Horn Charm, +1. Mottled Necklace, +1. Prince of Death's Pustule, Prince of Death's Cyst. Now onto the weapon ones. Dagger, Curved Sword, Twin Blade, Axe, Hammer, Spear, Lance, Claw, Great Shield, Arrow's Sting, and Arrow's Reach. Then we have the magic ones. Graven School, Graven Mass, Faithful's Canvas, Flock's Canvas, Primal Glintstone, Moon of Noxtella, Old Lord's Talisman, and the Radagon icon. Roar Medallion, Companion Jar, Perfumer's Talisman, Shard of Alexander, Godfrey icon, Bullgoat's Talisman, Blue Dancer Charm, Magic Scorpion, Fire Scorpion, Lightning Scorpion, Sacred Scorpion, Crucible Scale, Crucible Feather, and Crucible Knot. Red Feather Branch Sword, Blue Feather Branch Sword, Ritual Sword, Ritual Shield, Assassin's Crimson Dagger, Assassin's Cerulean Dagger, Winged Sword Insignia, Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, Godskin Swaddling Cloth, Kindred of Rot's Exaltation, Lord of Blood's Exaltation, Taker's Cameo, Gold Scarab, Silver Scarab, Crepus's Vial, Concealing Veil, Longtail Cat Talisman, Shabriri's Woe, Datakar's Woe, and there are several sacrificial twigs throughout the game. Of course, they are consumable when you die. There are, like I said, a couple missing here that I'd like to note. Like the Warrior Jar Shard, which you would get if you killed Alexander before completing his questline, but the Shard of Alexander is just a better version of it, so if you have this, don't worry about the other one. Millicent's Prosthesis, which is just a better version of... sorry, I'm blanking. I don't actually know where I was going with that. What was I even saying? Yeah, Millicent's Prosthesis, which you get by killing Millicent, either by invading her at the end of her questline, assisting her sisters and betraying her and all that fun stuff, not really, which would mean forfeiting the Rotten Winged Sword Insignia, which you get for helping her in that scenario. Or you can also get it by killing her before completing her questline, but you can't kill her right when you meet her. You would have to do it after giving her the prosthetic arm for obvious reasons. It's Millicent's Prosthesis. She wouldn't have it if she didn't have a prosthetic arm. Then we have Ancestral Spirit's Horn. You get that by trading the Remembrance of the Regal Ancestor to Enya at Round Table Hold. And finally, speaking of Round Table Hold, there are a couple of other random talismans. I'm going to go back there to show you that off while I'm thinking about it. You can buy them from the Twin Maiden Husks. Right in here. Those would be the Furled Fingers Trick Mirror and the Host's Trick Mirror. Also, the... I've been blanking on what it's called. Do I still have Iji's Bell Bearing? Don't. Did I not get it? Hold on. Here we are. Carrion Filigreed Quest, or Crest, if you did not buy it from EG earlier in the game. You can buy it here now if you offer EG's Bell Bearing. Obviously, he dies at the end of the quest line that involves him, so you kind of just get that by default. As far as bell bearings go, there are a lot, and which ones you have are going to depend on which NPCs have died in your game, and after you give them to the Twin Maiden Husks, you can't really see the names of which ones you had anymore. Let me cash all these in, though, here to make a point. Alright, so... the important ones here to me that I want to point out are the Smithing Stone Miner's Bell Bearings. There are 4 Smithing Stone Miner Bell Bearings, and if you, or you'll know you have all of them if you can purchase Smithing Stone 1 through 8 from the Twin Maiden Husks. Then there are Somber Stone Miner's Bell Bearings, 5 of them, and you'll know you got them all if you can buy Somber Smithing Stones 1 through 9, which I can. The Glovewort Picker's Bell Bearing, there's 3 of them. You'll know that you got them all if you can buy Grave Gloveworts 1 through 9. And of course, finally, the Ghost Glovewort Picker's Bell Bearings. Once again, you'll know you got them all. There are 3 of them if you can buy Ghost Gloveworts 1 through 9. As I've mentioned a few times in the walkthrough, you cannot buy the items that you use to max out anything. So Great Ghost Gloveworts, Great Grave Gloveworts, Somber Ancient Dragon Smithing Stones, and regular Ancient Dragon Smithing Stones. Those are all in limited supply on every playthrough, but you can get every weapon up to the second to last upgrade tier by purchasing these, and you can purchase an infinite supply of them if you would like, but you should farm up some runes for that because that's expensive. Lastly, you might as well go around to all the Wandering Mausoleums and duplicate some boss remembrances. There are 7 Wandering Mausoleums. There's 1 in Weeping Peninsula, there's 3 in Liurnia, 1 in Mountaintops of the Giants, 1 in Consecrated Snowfields, and 1 in Deeproot Depths. If they have a bell, that means that they can duplicate any remembrance, but the ones without a bell can only duplicate non-Shardbearer remembrances. So they can't duplicate the remembrance from any boss that gives us a great rune, basically. You also don't have to have the remembrance with you to duplicate it, so if you already traded one of these remembrances to Enya for one of the boss's weapons or spells, you can still duplicate it at a Wandering Mausoleum. You'll see it pop up in the menu there when you go. Actually, scratch that last part. Probably wait until you kill the next few bosses and see if you want to duplicate any of their remembrances first, because like I said earlier, you won't be forced into New Game Plus right away. You can still explore the world after the final boss is defeated and take care of all that duplication nonsense, but you don't have enough duplication opportunities to get every single one of these duplicated, so make sure you're prioritizing the ones that you actually want. I think that is the end for that long list of items that I wanted to make sure I covered. So let's get on with the rest of this episode. Warp to Leyndell, capital of Ash once again, and make preparations for a boss fight. Now, actually, there's a note I want to make like right here. This is way too early for it, but I'm afraid that you guys will miss it if I put it any later in the video. Okay, so I'm going to say this again pretty much word for word because I like scripted it out in my notes just to make sure that I told you this very important information. After you kill the final boss, which is a few bosses away, so like I said, I'm saying this early, there will be multiple things in the boss's room to interact with, and they do not have any kind of like, are you sure you want to do this confirmation prompt. If you click on them, you will just instantly trigger the ending associated with that interactable item. I will remind you again, but I know some people probably try the boss and then watch me, or, you know, whatever it may be, just pause the videos at weird times. I don't want you to accidentally click on something that is going to get you the wrong ending. So I'm going to say it again like I said, but just so you know right now while you're watching, before you pause the video at a weird time and miss it, after you kill the final boss, do not touch anything except the grace that spawns in that room. Nothing. Alright? You press a single button and you're going to lock yourself into an ending. And if it's not the ending you want, you're going to be very upset. Anyways, back to what I was originally going to do. So let's go over to that staircase that we passed by earlier. It's pretty much straight ahead over here. I always wonder when I'm going through here, like, the staircase we just went up is, like, pretty high up in the original map. I don't know if you've put together where we just were, but that, I've lost where we just were. That, it doesn't really matter. I can probably see it from over here. Yeah. So that railing down there that we hopped over, and, like, there's the Bolt of Grand Sacks. This was, like, that high up ledge down there that I'm staring at. that we had to jump down to land on top of the Bolt of Grand Sack. So there's like a good 50 feet probably of like space that got buried. Like Leyndell goes down pretty low. There's a lot of verticality to it. So I always wonder in this point of the game, like a lot of the tree is still there even though it's on fire. And I'm just curious, even though that is massive, how realistic of an amount of ash this really is. I definitely feel like it's more than there should be, but I'm just curious. No, there's no way of knowing without knowing the volume of ash versus the volume of the tree. I'm doing math stuff, but I don't know. It keeps me up at night. Anyway, when you get into this next building, you see someone standing right in there. You'll find Gideon, who's going to begin a monologue, which you are welcome to interrupt at any time. Even though it's like content and it's like, oh, I want to listen to this, you should listen to it if it's your first playthrough, but you can get a nice jump on him and just mess his world up if you just interrupt him and start attacking, which you're absolutely free to do. Now, Gideon is essentially just an NPC invader with a ton of spells. He can be backstabbed, he doesn't have too much poise, pretty easy to stagger, doesn't have very high resistances to status effects, and can heal one time with a Crimson Flask. It's basically just like fighting any other NPC in the game. Just about every spell he uses is something we've unlocked by this point in the game, with a lot of them being the spells that we can unlock by trading remembrances from bosses. As you've probably noticed, the spells that we get from a boss, they're not quite as cool as the one the boss gets to use. We've dealt with all the real things, not the dollar store knockoffs that Gideon uses, so this fight should be pretty manageable. His spells definitely hit super hard still, but if you keep up the pressure, he should go down in no time. Now, the cool thing to me about this fight is that he actually gets more spells based on which optional demigods you've killed. If you remember, there's that list of people that we were supposed to like investigate and bring him intel from. And those will affect the way that this fight goes. By default, he has access to sorceries including Comet Azure, Carrion Phalanx, Black Flame Ritual, Law of Causality, and Triple Rings of Light. But there are some additions and substitutions he'll make based on who you've killed, like I just said. He can add Rykard's Rancor if Rykard has been killed, Blood Boon if Moog, Lord of Blood, has been killed, and Scarlet Aeonia if Millennia has been killed. I believe this only works if you kill them before burning the Erd Tree though, which we did in the walkthrough, but he moves to Leyndell after that. That's like the trigger for him to move, so I have to assume that's the cutoff where you can't go back and kill the bosses to change his fight. If you kill all three, Rykard, Moog, and Millennia, then he will not cast Triple Rings of Light anymore. If you kill at least two of them, he won't cast Comet Azure. So there are quite a few slightly different combinations of moves he can use depending on your particular playthrough. Like I said, we've seen much more dangerous versions of these attacks before, so I don't think I have to explain them in much detail. But one you might not be familiar with that I want to point out is Law of Causality, just because I feel like no one uses that. Basically, he stands still, does a gesture, and you'll see a golden rune like appear on his chest, and after hitting him, I believe 5 times, it will explode. So try to trigger that explosion from range with like a spell or throwing knife or something if you can. I'm just going to be risky and not bring that stuff into the fight because I feel like I can keep enough pressure on him that he either won't be able to cast it or he'll die before that's a problem for me. He can also raise his staff and put a debuff on you and himself. I think there's like a little glowing red eye or something symbol that will denote this, if I remember right. And what it does is it significantly reduces your both of your holy and magic damage reduction. So use that to your advantage if you want. Maybe I didn't phrase that right. His holy and his magic damage reduction goes down, and so does yours. So both of you will take way more damage to holy and magic attacks, which he has a lot of, and you might not, but if you do, lean into it. Let's get started. I love all the videos of people just like walking in here and one-shotting him. They're so funny. Alright, well, down he goes, didn't even get a chance to heal. Fight can be kind of hard if you're not, like, appropriate level. But most people, I think, are going to be around, you know, creeping up or past 150 by this point in the game. What am I? 155, yeah. So, because I haven't died many times, even if you're like 130 or something, pretty far behind me, he still just doesn't have that much health, so shouldn't be too much of a problem unless you're doing like a rune level 1 run, but I assume you know what you're doing and aren't watching a walkthrough at that point. But yeah, his armor sets and his scepter. I did it again, I forgot the grace. It doesn't matter at all, but if I don't get it, this will be a 99.9% walkthrough. Alright, now we grab this grace and hop up on the bed here to get the Urge Tree heal incantation, and I'm gonna rest up, level up, all that fun stuff. I forgot this build was like done. Just keep pumping that vigor, why not? I'll just get that next level, we're really close to it. Where are my golden runes at? Alright, so up this staircase, you will find the entrance to the boss fight. Now, if you inherited the Frenzied Flame and left Shabriri alive, that guy that was posted up at the beginning of Mountaintops of the Giants, you will see his summon sign right here, and if you completed Nefeli's questline, you will see her summon sign right here. This boss, Godfrey, hits very, very hard, but his swings are fairly telegraphed. The tricky part, though, I think, is just finding a good opportunity to land a hit, because he doesn't pause for very long between attacks, I feel like. To offset the damage, I definitely recommend something that reduces physical damage, like the Dragon Crest Great Shield Talisman that I have on. He doesn't, I don't know, he has a decent amount of health, I guess, but this fight reminds me a lot of Beast Clergyman and Malekith, where Phase 1 tends to feel longer than Phase 2 to me. In Phase 2, he's just going to hit so hard. Like, it's going to be over so fast. But, like, one of you is going to die very quickly, which I feel like is the same way that Malekith usually goes in my experience. Like, he hits like a truck, attacks super aggressively, but if you can land a few hits, the fight's going to be over before you know it. And that's how this fight goes too. It can feel like a long fight and like he has a ton of health if you can't get, since you can't get very long attack combos in, but if you're struggling, I would still probably recommend summoning an NPC if you want to, even if it does feel like he has a lot of health to you, because a huge part of his moveset are his stomps, which, unless he's empowered, which I'll talk about in a second, will only affect a cone shape in front of him. So if you get a summon to take his attention, you don't have to worry about the stomps at all, which is huge. Obviously, you can also just do like Spirit Ashes to not give him an extra buff, but you worked hard to do Nefeli's questline, so you should summon her. It's fun. Now, for the most part in this fight, I think the best way to do it is to just stay as close as possible, and I like to just strafe and roll always to my left, so circling him clockwise basically, and just keep trying to get around him. Like I said, his non-empowered stomps will go out in a cone shape in front of him with the narrowest point of the cone right where his foot lands, so the farther away from him you are, the more stomp area you have to worry about. And if you are super close to him point blank and you just roll to the left, you're going to end up not in the stomp area at all. And then he also has like this one combo finisher where he just does this like kind of big over the top slow slam with his axe, and that tends to just miss me outright without even needing to roll pretty often if I'm circling him to my left. So highly recommend that. For the second phase, I can never decide if I like circling left or right, but I would say it's even more imperative that you are not rolling backwards. For both first and second phase, really the rest of this video, actually, I have to just recommend that you not roll backwards. All these bosses are going to feel so aggressive and like they can just keep reaching you no matter what. You know when you try to heal when you're fighting a Crucible Knight and it just does that running poke at you and just never lets you get the heal off? That's like the entire moveset of these bosses, so you need to be rolling behind them if you can. And then at some point he's going to like be able to roar, and he's going to do like a big, slow, like very wound up stomp. And from that point on, he will have empowered stomps where every stomp he does covers like a huge area, like basically the whole arena. So even though I say that you can avoid his non-empowered stomps by rolling to the side, I would get used to and practice jumping over the shockwaves from the stomps, because at a certain point, that's going to be definitely the recommended course of action. Of course, if you time it perfectly, you can roll through the stomps if you just roll the second that his foot touches the ground and the shockwave comes out. But as you know by this point, you get tons and tons of iframes on the lower half of your body when you jump, so the timing is much more forgiving if you're jumping in the air. Also, if you have any abilities like the... do I have the stats to use it? It'd be really convenient if I did. The Bolt of Grand Sax, which has come up a couple times. Oh, I do. Okay, the weapon art on this. See how I'm floating off the ground? You can use that airtime to avoid the shockwave from his attacks. That's like a high-level maneuver, but it is something that you can do, and there's nothing in the world that feels more satisfying than pulling that off. Same with any Dragon Communion incantations. If you're not touching the ground, the shockwaves can't reach you. So keep that in mind if you want to have some fun with this. Otherwise, I guess let's get in here. I'm gonna let this cutscene play out also, because there's like one thing in it that I think is really cool that I want to point out. I think most people who have played the game before have noticed this, but just in case you haven't, you should see it.
It's been a long while, Morgoth.
See how the grace goes from Morgoth over to us? It points to us as like his objective to kill. That's so sick.
Spurned by the grace of gold. Be assured, the Elden Ring resteth close at hand. Alas, I am returned. To be granted audience once more. Upon my name as Godfrey.
Also, the boss fight music starting before the cutscene actually ends. Insane aura. Alright, so we missed timer roll to start. But I'm just gonna keep circling him to the left, like I said. See, that goes out in a cone in front of him. If you're far away, jump. If you're not that far away, you probably land a jumping attack. Back up and heal here. Just missed him there, that's alright. Okay, when he twirls his axe like that, he's gonna do that follow-up, like, push his axe in the ground and spawns that fissure. You want to just get as far away from that as possible. Wherever the ground doesn't look normal, it's going to deal damage. It's kind of a, like, jank animation because after his axe is already stuck in the ground, he can still turn his body to face you for the follow-up attack. Very strange, but let's keep that in mind. And do it again. Watch, he turns to face me. There you go. Pretty soon, there he goes, going for that big wind-up stomp. And now he has his glowing aura. His stomps of any kind are going to cover the whole arena. So it's time to start jumping. Unfortunate, dude. I got caught by that second attack. Yeah, if you're like aggressive, was just about to go into a phase transition there, and I kind of overestimated how much damage I'd be doing. But when he does that big wind-up stomp, if he's close to half health, I would just send it and be aggressive. Like I said, I overestimated how much damage I'd actually do. I thought I could get him into the phase transition. Let's run it back. Get the idea of the fight. Saw's very consistently just circling him clockwise, and it works pretty well. Always like to go for a jumping attack there since I have to jump anyway. That was ambitious. There's that big over-the-top thing that misses me pretty often if I'm circling left and staying close to him. Twirl the axe, here comes the fissure. If you're spamming jump attacks, or you can get some charged heavies in, it's pretty common to be able to stagger him in this first phase. Speak of the devil. Now when he gets up, he'll probably go for that empowered roar. And we'll just send him into phase 2. So in phase 2, he's going to drop the axe, and the fight is going to change quite a bit. He's going to go hand-to-hand grappling. He's super aggressive. He has lots of grab attacks that you would definitely want to watch out for, and he's always going to start with a grab attack. Basically, like, almost anything he hits you with is going to just send you flying. It's really easy to get stun locked here. So, once again, like I said, to offset that aggression and the long, fast combos, you want to make sure you're rolling behind him. You do not want to be rolling backwards. You're going to get caught. Even more important than in the first phase. So, let's send it. Here comes the first grab. After that roar, he's going to do that big jump. He's going to land, and then he's going to do a follow-up slam with his offhand and do that huge Earth Shatter ability. You can time a roll with that, obviously, to get away from it, but running out of range, I think, is better. There's a grab. I got caught healing. See, I was moving backwards there, and he's just relentless. It's really bad, or really hard to get a heal off, though. So let's try to find a window to get behind him again. Tracking on that is insane. Knocked down by the jump again. Time a roll there. Try to get away from this. This one's funny if you summon for it. It's gonna be a big stomp. And another one. But yeah, some of his like grab combos, or after he grabs you, the attacks he does are just like this one right there. If you get caught by that, the follow-up animation is so long, and you're just watching your summon like get bullied in air, and there's nothing they can do about it. There's nothing you can do about it. They're just flying around helplessly. I got caught by it. Now I gotta try to time a roll here. Didn't do it. Oh, I thought I had him. There we go. So yeah, I mean, it's hard to get a hit in that second phase, but like really it doesn't last very long if you can get some hits in. If you proc any status effect there, If you manage to stun him too, I mean, it's over quick, just like Malekith in my opinion. But two very, very, very different fights. Most fights that have a phase 1 and phase 2 is like phase 2 typically expands on the phase 1 moveset, and really the only similarity between these two is the stomp and the shockwaves and stuff. But you know, some people I think are going to have an easier time with phase 1 or phase 2 just because they are so different. One might be more friendly with how it interacts with your build, but who knows. Best of luck with that fight. And you get the Remembrance of Horaloo, which you can trade for the Axe of Godfrey or an Ash of War called Horaloo's Earthshaker, which I'm sure you can imagine what that might do. You can also purchase Godfrey's armor from Enya, which looks pretty sick. So activate this grace that spawns. Don't forget to spend the runes from it before you continue. And once again, like I said, I'm going to remind you of this earlier. Up the stairs is the final boss of the game. Listen closely before you do anything, because this is super important. After you fight the boss, don't touch anything except the grace that spawns. There's going to be multiple things in the room to interact with, and they will not have an "Are you sure?" confirmation prompt on them. If you click on them, you will instantly trigger the ending cutscene associated with that item. I'll remind you again after we kill the final boss, but I know, like I said, some people watch these videos in a way where they pause and then do it in their own game, or they watch me do something first and then pause, so I just want to make sure you hear this message. Now, this boss deals a mix of physical and holy damage, with definitely an emphasis on holy damage. Consequently, it is also extremely resistant to holy damage. 80% of all holy damage will be absorbed by this boss. In phase 1, the only status effects that you can trigger are poison, scarlet rot, and frostbite. No bleed, unfortunately, for you bleed builds out there. But even those are pretty hard to proc, and he's immune to everything else. In phase 2, the boss is immune to all status effects. I guess phase 2 isn't really the accurate way to explain this. It's basically 2 bosses back to back, because the first boss, I would say, it has a phase 2 on its own, but it's more like what I was just explaining, where it's more expanding upon the moveset that was already there rather than being a totally different fight. Not really important right now, but to prepare for this fight, if you have 27 faith or can reach it easily, the incantation Lord's Divine Fortification, I think it's called. Where are you? Did I miss it? Maybe I just never bought it. I don't think I bought it. But it's called Lord's Divine Fortification, I think, and it boosts holy damage negation by 60% for 70 seconds. No, you get it. Talk to Gideon after millennia. Oh, there it is. Okay, it's like the second row. I was gonna say I should have it. So yeah, if you didn't get it that way, you should also be able to buy it from the Twin Maiden husks now that Gideon is dead, I think. You can also use the regular Divine Fortification for only 10 faith, which is a little more realistic. You can also use the Halig Tree Talisman we have the +2 version of, as I read earlier. You could stack that with the Holy Proof Dried Liver. Yeah, whatever you want to do to increase your holy defense, it's definitely going to help here. The only damage type that the boss doesn't like outright absorb is fire, but it will in that second boss fight. The first boss doesn't have... Well, the first boss has like no fire resistance basically, or low fire resistance, but the second boss just resists everything. Additionally, anything that will increase your longevity in this fight will be useful, because we have 2 huge health bars to cut through on 1 supply of flasks. So things that increase your defense, like the Dragon Crest Great Shield or Halig Tree Talismans, like I was just saying, or something like the Crimson Seed Talisman to get more healing out of each flask, are all pretty nice. I don't know if you have that many spare talisman slots at this point in the game, depending on your build, who knows, but thought I'd throw it out there. There is also one attack in particular during the upcoming Elden Beast fight, which is pretty obnoxious because it spams you with non-stop holy attacks, and it's pretty hard to outrun. Meanwhile, the boss will tend to continue with other attacks that you have to dodge while you get peppered by little holy projectiles. So one great way to counter it is actually the Crimson Whirl Bubble Tier. which is going to convert any incoming non-physical damage, which wholly is non-physical, so that would count, into HP for a few seconds. So you basically won't be hurt at all by this attack, it'll just heal you. You're only going to get away with that once per fight since it's the effect of the Wondrous Physic. This doesn't last forever and you can't use it multiple times, but that very well might be all you need. And it's more of an annoyance than like an instant kill move or anything. So I think one freebie is usually more than enough. And you could also mix that with like the, I don't know, something that's going to buff your attacks. Probably mixing it with the Opaline bubble like I have right now is a waste because once I get hits, it's going to crack that bubble, and I wasn't going to take damage anyway because of the Crimson Whirl. So I'll throw on the lightning boost, I suppose. Why not? Alright, let's do this thing. I suppose Rune Arc wouldn't hurt. Going into the last one. Honestly, I would probably be getting way more use out of what's it called? Radagon rune at this point, but that's fine. Now this fight also, I should mention, he's like the king of delayed attacks and insane tracking. So just like the last two, last one boss, but the two phases of it, I'm going to recommend the same thing. Just keep rolling and strafing to the left and try to wind up behind the boss as much as possible. Especially a lot of his attacks are going to send out a golden shockwave. And the timing, if you're far away from it, is pretty hard because it's very quick, but it doesn't instantly spread to the entire area that it affects. It's like a wave that kind of comes out. Not slowly, but there is a slight delay. So it makes timing your rolls really hard if you're in front of the boss, which means that being point blank or even behind him is your best bet because you either won't get hit or you can time your dodge with the second that the boss's like foot touches the ground. So let's get in here. I guess we'll watch the final cutscene, why not? It's the last one. I love that the final boss music is just like the main menu music. Comes full circle. Alright, so you usually have a second for like one free big attack at the beginning. He likes to pose for a second. But I wouldn't recommend going for more than one or two attacks after most of his combos. You see his big delays on his swings, lots of tracking. Here comes a grab. That's gonna hurt. Even if it doesn't hit you, there's a big explosion that comes out of it, so that can definitely hurt. Damn. Basically anything that glows gold in this fight is going to have a follow-up explosion with it, or is going to explode in some capacity, so there's a lot happening on the screen, I feel like, and as you saw there, that was actually my second piece of advice. That was a sequel to the first piece of advice, to always kind of stay behind him, because if you get far away from him, I think his ranged attacks are by far the most difficult to deal with. That first attack he threw out there with his hands, well, he's doing everything with his hands, but like the few beams of light, those don't hit very hard, but they come out really fast, and then he can chain that obviously into more projectiles, which the first one, the beams come out very fast, and then that spear he throws has like a big delay to it, and then you got to worry about the follow-up explosion, by which point he can run in melee range if he wants to. There's just a ton to deal with and so many timings to get down. So if you can stay right underneath him, where he's less likely to use any of those projectiles, that is definitely ideal. Let's get back in here and lock in and get this done. See that wave out there? There's a follow-up explosion. And for the most part, I'm not going for more than one attack here after his combos just to be safe. Sometimes I will, but that's because I'm greedy and stupid. It's just like a personal character flaw. When he jumps really high up, I like to get underneath him if possible. Sometimes camera kind of screws you up a bit, but good opportunity to heal. You see, like, some of these swings also, since I'm just sticking so close to him, do miss me even when I completely mistime my roll. Now he's in phase 2, he can do this teleporting thing. It hurts you a little when he teleports. Try to get a heal off and get in close again. The other thing is his attacks have deceptively long range, so if you are like far away from him and he goes for melee, it's sometimes hard to dodge as well just because he can lunge so much farther than you expect him to. Whereas if you're point blank and he swings the hammer, you're like, oh well, I know this can reach me, so I'm not caught off guard by that at all. Becomes a big triple slam, there's no way I didn't roll there. Last one, he's gonna go up, definitely get underneath him and try to roll behind. That one has very hard roll timing if you're out in front of him. Get away from these follow-up explosions. It's just tough. Once all that stuff is going off, there's not much you can do as far as going in for attacks. You just kind of have to wait for all this stuff to detonate because it's not safe to hang out because that explosion will catch you. So getting close again. It's going to go for a grab and force us away. Getting close again. And he forces us in the long range again, which is where we don't want to be. I feel like that didn't hit me. I was standing too far forward. But down he goes, and we have 6 flasks left for fight number 2. So for fight number 2, it's basically always going to start with fire breath, so I would recommend closing the distance to the boss as soon as possible. Get a couple shots in and on the front of it if you want, or just be absolutely safe, go straight behind it. But if you want to be aggressive, get a couple swings in and then go behind it. The boss is huge and it's, I don't know, I think it's pretty easy to stagger surprisingly, so I would go in with lots of jumping attacks here, charged heavies where you can get them. Now here's the kicker. As of the time the DLC came out, which was very recently, you can now use Torrent in this fight, and Torrent can make this fight kind of a joke, I'm not gonna lie. We're gonna try Torrent. There's a couple like abilities that you need to like jump over, and being able to do that with a double jump that goes much higher than your regular jump makes those absolutely free. and the boss gets really far away from you, and usually you gotta waste all your stamina sprinting over to it, but not if you're on torrent. So, good change. It felt weird that you couldn't use torrent in the first place, I think, because the arena is just so huge and the boss is huge. It's just, I don't know, but depending on what kind of luck you get with the moves the boss pulls out, torrent can be insanely powerful here, because if you're behind the boss, you don't have much to worry about. The difficulty is just getting behind the boss, but since you can move way faster on horseback, that difficulty goes away a little bit. So you get a delay here a second before it goes in for that first attack. Now the fire. Got a couple charged heavies here. Got some pretty straightforward sword swings. Should be close to a stagger. There we go. And he actually stays stunned for quite a while. If you wanted to min-max damage, you could probably get a couple shots off on... I forgot I had the red dagger on. It's healing from that. Probably get a couple shots before you actually go for the crit. Alright, so here when he flies up, there's this ring that appears in the air. And then in a second, after he like explodes, a ring is going to appear on the ground. Just jump over it. And if you turn your back to him when he flies up, you'll be facing where he's going to pop up afterwards, so that's useful. I love the feedback when you hit him, just like the glass shattering and the little glow. It's very satisfying. Okay, here is that annoying ability I mentioned. So this is going to slowly track us, and all these little mini bolts are going to hit us. But if you pop the Crimson World here, you just absorb all of them basically. You don't even have to roll through these sword slashes, because that's all holy damage too. So we're basically just invincible. You see this thing, like, it's hard to outrun. You could outrun it easily on torrent, but that's like option number 2. Easiest way I think is just that Crimson World here. Totally trivializes that move. It's pretty hard to see where all those slashes are coming from when there's just like an onslaught of those little holy projectiles, so... At some point here he's gonna go for a triple ring version of that move he did earlier. I hope this doesn't kill him. Okay, yeah, we're good. So I'm gonna ease up a little bit here and let him do his thing. Not torrent, don't you dare. There we go. This is the same thing though, except there's gonna be 3 rings. So just put him to your back. We jump over 1. You don't even need the double jump, it just makes it completely free. And he should pop up right there. There's one other attack where a bunch of homing bolts are gonna, like, rain from the sky. If you just keep running, they shouldn't be a problem. If you run on torrent, it makes it even easier. Maybe he'll do it here soon. Here they are. So let's hop on torrent and then just run. Easy as that. And I think that's pretty much it. So let's get annihilated by this attack and then go and finish this up. Adding torrent to that fight, such a good change. You get the Elden Remembrance, which you can trade for Marika's hammer, the one that Radagon was using, or technically Marika, I guess, but that or the Sacred Relic Sword, which is the weapon that the Elden Beast was using. Like I said, don't touch anything when you get back. Evil that they put this summon sign right here. If you press the interact button on that summon sign, it is going to trigger the Rani ending to the game. So just be very careful of that. There's the Grace over there. we can interact with that. You can grab your runes if you lost any. So let's pick our ending now. Listen closely to all the options before you do anything, because once again, there won't be any "are you sure" confirmation when you select an option. I'm going to try my best to give my own short description of all the endings so you have some sense of what they are if you literally have no idea, because the menu options that trigger them aren't very descriptive. Of course, all the endings are very vague and open to interpretation, so take this with a grain of salt, but I'm not going to say which endings are good or bad per se, just what the immediate implications are, and you can research all the lore and stuff on your own and get a real explanation of them. But if I had to sum them up in a couple seconds, this is or a couple sentences is what I'm trying to say. This is how I would do that. So first of all, if you inherited the Frenzied Flame and did not subdue it with Miquella's Needle, like I said many times before in this walkthrough, you were locked into that ending, so your only option would be to approach the Fractured Marika and become the Lord of Frenzied Flame. In this ending, you essentially burn down the entire world and create a blank slate. No more gods, no more demigods, no more anything. Just burn it all down and start over. If you inherited the Frenzied Flame before Forge of the Giants, which means you burnt the Erd Tree, Melody did not sacrifice herself, she will also swear to deliver destined death to you, which is pretty metal. I know it's a huge stretch, but I also think it would be so cool if this ending just led to that gray, ashen landscape in the intro cutscene of Dark Souls 1 and made Elden Ring the prequel. Random tangent, but I couldn't help but say it. It's probably almost definitely not true, but if you did not inherit the Frenzied Flame, or you cleansed it with Miquella's Needle before now, you may choose any of the other 5 endings depending on what questlines you completed up to this point. If you completed Ranni's questline, a blue sign will be here on the ground. If you interact with it, you'll get her ending, otherwise known as the Age of Stars ending. In the Age of Stars, Ranni brings an end to the Golden Order and creates her own new order, which rids the lands between of the influence of the Greater Will. Ranni becomes a god basically, but she leaves and takes all the god stuff with her. So instead of the lands between having a clear person to worship like Marika and being directly guided and influenced by grace, Ranni kind of just takes all that away and lets fate run its course, and everyone gets to make their own decisions without any kind of divine influence. So just guys being dudes at that point. Alternatively, if you interact with the statue of Marika, you can choose one of the other 4 endings, which are all of the Elden Lord endings. In all of these, you repair the Elden Ring, but what happens next depends on what you use to repair it. For the default ending, also known as the Age of Fracture, you want to just choose the Mend the Elden Ring option. So you'll repair the Elden Ring to the state it was before the Shattering, that whole event that it talks about in the beginning cutscene of the game, and you become the new Elden Lord. In fact, all of these endings at the Fractured Marika end with you becoming Elden Lord, so I'll just say that now instead of repeating it 3 more times. That's just the most basic ending, super default, don't have to do any quest lines. If you did nothing, that's the ending you would get. If you completed Goldmask and Brother Corn's questlines, you can select the option to use Mending Rune of Perfect Order. This will trigger the Age of Order ending. You repair the Elden Ring with the Rune of Perfect Order and restore order to the lands between. Goldmask realized at some point that it was the fickleness of the gods, who are no better than men, that's a quote from the item description of this rune, that led to all the issues in the lands between. So with them gone, you basically set out to create a perfected Golden Order that might actually work. It's a pretty good option, I think. If you completed Fia's questline, you can select the option to use the Mending Rune of the Death Prince. This will trigger the Age of the Duskborn ending. This one's a bit more confusing, but here's my understanding of it. By repairing the Elden Ring with this rune, those who live in death, aka undead, now have a place in the New Order. Up until now, they've been shunned and tortured and stuff because life and death was considered unnatural. However, with this ending, the concept of the cycle of life and death is altered, and essentially being undead will be normalized because eventually everyone will die and be reborn after death, hence Duskborn. In summary, equal rights for skeletons. All you guys leaving messages in these games saying don't give up skeleton for the past 13 years, it's time to put your money where your mouth is. This right here is your chance. And finally, if you completed Dung Eater's questline, you can select the option to use the Mending Rune of the Fell Curse to get the Blessing of Despair ending. This will afflict all life and all generations to come with a curse that prevents souls from returning to the Erd Tree when they die. I honestly can't tell if it's implying that everyone also becomes an omen or not, but everyone's definitely cursed in some way. The description of the runes says if order is defiled entirely, then defilement is defilement no more. So the gist is basically that everything sucks, which means nothing sucks. So those are your 4 options. I would definitely look into the endings on your own for better explanations, but if you didn't have any idea what any of them were, hopefully my dumb explanations helped a bit. If you're looking to get all of the achievements, there are 3 associated with endings. There's a Lord of Frenzied Flame achievement, which requires you to get the Frenzied Flame ending, not just inherit the flame. The Age of Stars, which requires that you do Ronnie's ending. And finally, Elden Lord, which will unlock if you choose any of these 4 Repair the Elden Ring endings, since you become Elden Lord in all of them. So unless you back up your save to get them all in one playthrough, you would need to beat the game at least 3 times for all endings rather than 6 to get all the achievements. And then finally, the only achievement I haven't mentioned is just called the Elden Ring, I think, and that's the one you get for completing every other achievement. So nice little bow on top of all your hard work. I'm not going to explain how to back up your save because I've never tried it, and I've never tried it because half the people I've seen talk about it said it deleted their save. Plus, I like to have a reason to replay the game. I think it's pretty good. Now, after you pick an ending and the cutscene plays, the game will ask you if you want to continue to Journey 2. Like I was saying earlier, if you choose no, then you can still wander around freely and tie up any loose ends while you still have access to the whole map. So I would do that personally, and then you can then go on to Journey 2, aka New Game Plus, from the Grace and Roundtable hold whenever you're ready. And I would definitely do that now that the DLC is out, because you have to get pretty far in the base game to even be eligible to get into the DLC. So if you're going to play through New Game Plus, though, don't forget to farm up some runes and buy as many upgrade materials as you can from the Twin Maiden Husks, as you can now buy an infinite supply of smithing stones, somber smithing stones, grave gloveworts, ghost gloveworts, all with the exception of the special ones that I mentioned earlier. Check all the merchants around the game for rune arcs, boluses, crafting materials, anything that you might want to stock up on before another playthrough. Lastly, double check Enya for some late game boss armor you might want. See if there are any remembrances you want to trade for boss weapons or abilities. And again, don't forget to duplicate your 7 remembrances at the Wandering Mausoleums to get all the possible rewards that you want. And you can get both of them even if you already exchanged one of the remembrances. With that, thank you so much for watching this walkthrough, especially if you've been here from the beginning. This was by far the biggest project I've ever done. I know some of you guys have been around since I made guides on Dark Souls 1 way back in the day. And honestly, after the size of this project, I feel like going back and making some updated walkthroughs for the Dark Souls series wouldn't be too insane compared to this. I feel like it would probably take me like an hour in comparison. That's probably not going to happen for a little while though, but you know, who knows, maybe someday. But especially, like I was saying, thanks to all those guys who have been around for that long. But over 1,200 pages of notes later, and we're finally at the end. At no point in this process, however, did I stop complaining about having to write 2-page papers for class. I will never change. I genuinely can't thank everyone enough for the support though. It's been insane. Gained close to 5,000 subscribers since I started uploading the guides earlier this year. Actually, this month was the first month I've ever had that I got over 1,000 new subscribers in a single month, which was crazy to see. Not to mention how many positive comments I've received on these videos. Sorry it took so long to make. Life is crazy and I wasn't able to prioritize YouTube as much as I would have liked, but if the channel keeps growing like this, who knows, maybe that might change someday. Anyway, thank you again. I hope this series was helpful, or at the very least entertaining, and I will see you in the DLC.
The fallen leaves tell a story of how a tarnished became Elden Lord in our home across the fog, the lands between. Our seed will look back upon us and recall the age of order.